What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. This is Something in Common. I am Blackberry.
And I'm Nino.
Thank you guys for joining us for another week. If you want to see more of this, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube at Blackberry. You can also listen to us on your favorite podcast app. And make sure you tell a friend, rate, review, subscribe. Help us get seen. We want to find more people to have stuff in common with. Okay?
Exactly.
What are we talking about today?
Relocating. We're both expats. Is that the right word?
What word?
Expats? Are we expats now? Whatever the fuck. I don't know. I think that's like
transplants is the word you're listening.
Yeah, okay. Expats is a thing though. It's just like
what
I think out of the country. Expat, like, oh, I'm an expat. Like I'm.
But what does that stand for? Like, what does that mean?
I don't know. White people made it up. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so we are both from Chicago.
Yes, and yelling cut when it's shooting time.
Sign up is recruiting time.
Exactly.
And we both relocated. I relocated in 2020 at the height of the pandemic.
Yeah, and I relocated a year after you in August to Arizona.
Oh, yes, and I moved to Houston, Texas. And so that was an interesting time for the both of us. And so we wanted to talk about what it's like relocating from your hometown, leaving your family and friends behind, and starting a new life for yourself.
Yeah.
So we can start with you. What was that like when you?
We always got to start.
Well, let's start with you.
Right. He on that right.
I moved first. Okay, so I was at. I'm gonna tell the whole story of why I
want the truth. Listen. We've been playing it safe, and we're not playing it safe anymore. Like we're getting serious now.
Okay. So I was at work one day. Mm-hmm. I was working in a warehouse in Chicago. As a pharmacy tech.
Okay.
Which sounds like a weird job, but you know.
No, I mean it sounds like it may have been black market.
I'd never heard of warehouse pharmacy techs until I became one.
I haven't heard of that till right now.
Basically, you know, you mail medicine out all over the country.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Okay. So I was at work one day. I really hated that job. It was really boring. My feet was hurting all the time. It was just like, oh God, what am I doing
over
here?
It.
Oh my God, I just wanted to, run into a wall every day, So I was at work one day, and this was like January 2020. I don't remember the date, but I remember the time. And I'm just like working. I had my music on, and the first thing that popped in my head was Houston. And I was like, oh, I'm moving to Houston. I literally had no other thoughts. That was literally it. It was like the word Houston popped up in my brain, and I was like, I'm leaving.
Do you remember when you called me and told me about it for the first time? Was it around that time, or was it closer to when you actually moved?
I don't remember, actually.
You don't remember that? I remember you calling me and saying, I think I want to move to Houston. And I was like, I think you should do it. And you were like, really? And I was like, yeah. And you were like, you were the first person who told me to do it.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, I remember that. You said that everyone else was kind of like, why do you want to move and don't leave?
Yeah, that was pretty much
everyone's reaction. And I remember you were like, you were honestly the only like person who's told me to do it.
Yeah, so that was in January. February, so I booked a trip. February, I went to Texas to go see places. And like it was like not looking good, First of all, I was staying in the dingiest motel that exists. And when I booked it, I didn't know that's what it was. They lied to me. And I probably should sue. But, that's another horrifying experience.
Actually, why didn't that deter you from your experience? Like, why didn't you look at that as like a red flag? Like, if this was my intro to like just checking it out?
That's a good question. I probably should have looked at it as a red flag, but it wasn't for me. I was like,
do you think it's because you wanted it so much?
I think it's because I wanted to go.
Yeah. Okay.
But that same day I found a place. They were like, just apply, whatever. I did that same weekend.
I remember that.
I pretty much got approved for the place. And I came home and I had to tell everybody like, I'm leaving in a couple months. Mm-hmm. And at the end of April, I moved. I moved to Houston May 1st, 2020. Yeah, that was the beginning of my journey here. I think the main reason that like the why of all of that, like, okay, I was in a dead end job and all that other type of stuff, but there was also like some family stuff going on that I felt like I just wanted to like remove myself from. Because at a certain point, it just felt like if I stay here, it's going to be hard for me to like like grow from some of these situations. Like I honestly started to feel trapped in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so that was like my main driver for leaving.
This is like a weird way to word the question, and I'm not sure how to do it. But if if all of your family that's in Chicago moved to Texas, would you go back to Chicago? Like swapping positions, basically. Like, would you?
When I first moved here, I kind of wanted everybody to come with me because I was like, this is such a different place.
Wow.
And I think everybody needs to be somewhere different.
Okay, that's like very nice and thoughtful of you.
But now it's like,
you're like, no.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like I love my family, and I'm actually a little homesick right now, to be honest. Like I kind of need to go home for.
Homesick.
You don't get homesick?
Why? I'm not homesick. Okay. I get homesick like when I'm traveling and I'm like I'm ready to be home, but not
like at your home.
Yeah.
Though not with your family.
Like Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like my family though. Like I have another friend who I've told that to, and he's like, I don't miss it at all, and I'm like, but I like my family.
Yeah.
I just you don't want to be around your family all the time, but
you like them enough to miss them and feel so much away.
And I usually go back to Chicago like 2 or 3 times a year, so I haven't been back in a minute actually.
Okay, that's sweet.
Yeah.
So mine came the year after you moved already, and for people who don't know this, Freddie is such a freaking ride or die. He happened to be in Chicago that weekend that I was moving, and I was like,
I think I came up there for that reason, to be honest.
Was it? I thought that you were just like visiting family. No, you weren't. You were.
I visited my family.
No, you were visiting. I remember because you had bought a round trip ticket, and I was like, I will just fly you back home if you come out with me. I'll fly you from Arizona, and you're like, okay.
I didn't buy a round trip ticket though.
We'll have to look into the details. He doesn't remember a lot of things clearly. He's very forgetful. But my relocation came after yours. I was my initial thing. It was half and half. Part of it was I was being a little bit spiteful, and then the other part was that I did want to relocate back to sort of like the West Coast.
Because you had lived in LA prior.
Yeah, so I was kind of going through like this weird like transition breakup. So breakup was in 2019, and then 2020 happened, and obviously like we didn't really do anything. Like we couldn't do anything, but I like once they were like letting people travel, I was traveling again. And then in that relationship, we had talked about possibly relocating to Arizona together. And so part of me was already on this kick because I was doing so many things already. Like my life didn't change. Like it kept going. Whereas at the time, the person that I like separated from was at like a standstill. So part of me was very like, all right, this is next on the list. I just got to move. I got to relocate. And then since I was living in LA, I wanted to do that. But I also was finishing up my second degree. And so I was like ready for something challenging. And my god sisters lived out here. And I was just very much so like, my family can be very overwhelming and toxic. I think all of us can relate to that to a certain extent. And I just knew like I wanted to grow, and I didn't want them in my business, and I didn't want them like what are you making and how are you doing this? Like all that stuff. So that's why. But yeah, Freddie he doesn't remember, but he happened to be visiting family, and I had enough money to either ship my car or to basically go on vacation, and I picked vacation. And then when I came back, I would have to drive my car, and so we packed up my car with all my clothes, and we drove.
That was a grueling trip.
It fucking was. Yeah, we drove.
I cannot believe we did that.
And my bright idea was like, I'm going to save money. So I was like Airbnb-ing inside of this, like, what was it, like, we call it like a trailer.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to tell that part.
Well, we're going to go for real. Listen, it was.
Oh, yeah, it was. Okay.
Well, we're going to be for real. I moved into this trailer that was.
If you want to call it that, it was more.
It was like maybe 115 square feet, if that.
That's generous.
Yeah, it was like.
It was probably
you walk in,
it's smaller than your living room right now.
Oh, no, this was smaller. It's way smaller. Like as soon as you, like if you step in to the left, it was like a full-size bed, and like you didn't have to even walk. Like it was there. And then to the right, there was like the counter for the kitchen. And then
what do they call that? Like a you could literally hitch it on the back of a pickup truck. Like,
it was a U-Haul, U-Haul storage room, and that's being generous. It was so cheap for the month, and like the place that I had pre-rented, because I got a job offer, wasn't going to be available. The high rise wasn't going to be available yet for the next month. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll stay in this. I lasted maybe like
32 hours.
If that. I lasted we got there like in the morning, and by like the next morning, I was already checking out, and I checked into the Hilton.
Do you think, why didn't that deter you from living in Arizona?
Honestly, I kind of did. I left out the part where I would come and look for apartments the way that you did. And because Arizona was still kind of like up and coming at the time, there weren't a lot of places that were done being built. They were older and like horrible roach reviews and just like gross and just like crazy. But something just felt right inside, because I had 2 job offers out on the table. One of them was in Chicago, and then one of them was here. And the one out here was less than the one in Chicago. And everything inside of me, if you know me, I'm very like, just go in that direction, was like, that you're not supposed to go in that direction this time. And so it just felt like I was supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So I listened to myself.
When I got to Houston, I did not have a job.
That's right. Oh my God.
I moved to Houston with like a little over $4,000.
Were you scared when you moved out there with no job?
No.
Was it because you had the 4,000 saved up, or was it just because in general?
In the back of my mind, I was like, okay, if the 4,000 runs out, I could Uber.
I'm thinking like living conditions, and you're like transportation.
I'm like, I'm thinking like I could do Uber Eats. And
you can. Okay, I see what you're saying now.
Because I had already been doing that like on the side anyway.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, if I just can't find a job, I can transition into like Ubering full time, which I did for like the first I want to say, how long did I do that? I moved in May. I didn't get a job until September. So whatever that is, 4 months. I Ubered that whole time, paid my bills with that.
That is dedication to being relocated.
Yeah, and it started to get like really like ghetto, to be honest, because like I have to pay rent and I'm doing this and I have to Uber, but like, you know.
Was there any point where you felt like this isn't worth it? Like I made a mistake?
I didn't feel like I made a mistake, but I was starting to hate Houston. Like I didn't
cry?
I probably did.
4 months in, when I was living here, I cried. Like I
wanted to go home.
I didn't think that I wanted to go home, but I felt like there's so much. Wait, let's go back to you, because I want to know how this. Come on.
And at the time, like the AC in my car was broken. You know how hot Houston gets, so I was like, Uber.
It almost feels like everything was telling you to like leave. You shouldn't be here. Yeah,
you should go. So I was Ubering with the windows down, like my phone was overheating. Like
I didn't know any of this. Trips. Why didn't you say any of this?
We've discussed how I don't come to people with my business. Like
this is concerning actually, because I'm wondering how much I actually do not know about him.
Maybe there's some things you don't know. But do you feel like you need to know everything about everybody? This is a sidebar, but
we're going to be transparent. When I moved out here, I was broke. There's been times where Freddie and I were trying to finesse how he can get me groceries. Like, do you remember that? With the Amazon, I would want to know, like, if you didn't have AC, because then maybe we could have, like, I know a lot of people in Texas. Maybe I could have, like, hit someone up. I
don't accept help very well, but I was struggling. I was paying the rent, I was paying the bills, but I was not like, satisfied. I finally ended up getting a job at Amazon, the warehouse, and I did that for 1.5 years, and so
wow.
My first few months in Houston were very like, I was not pleased. And then I'm not, we're going to get into this later, but at the end of that year, my mom ended up passing away, and it was just like, wow, something else to fucking destroy me.
Back to back.
So yeah, that was my first like 7 months there were like awful for me, to be honest.
Well, mine was a little bit different. I moved out here, and obviously like that whole living situation. So I went through my savings very quickly.
Same.
I mean, checking into the Hilton for a month was probably not the brightest idea that I had, but I was very like, well, like it's fine. Like I have a job, whatever. And, I pre-leased this place, and it was brand new high rise in the heart of downtown Phoenix. And it was pretty reasonably priced at the time. I think the rent was only going to be like $13.50 or something like that. It was a studio, and it was like going to be 300 square feet. So probably the size of the room that we're in right now. Okay. But it was brand new. It was going to be clean. And then that didn't end up happening because like they pushed the date out. So I ended up checking into another Airbnb because there was like no guarantee. It was like contingent. Like if it was 2 months delayed after that, then they would pay for, or they would like accommodate us in another way. So they weren't going to accommodate us unless it was past the 2 months. And so I was already kind of in over my head with the amount of rent that I was going to be paying. And I had to check into another Airbnb, which is not the price of the rent that was, the $13.50 or whatever. And so that was eventually just my savings. They just eventually went. And then that high rise put us in a hotel. And so I was living in a hotel for 6 months that I was in Arizona. So the same like inconvenience, like, do you really want to be here? Should you be here? Kind of vibe that you were getting. I was very much so in the thick of it. And at one point I just was like crying. Like I just literally was bawling my eyes out, laying on this fucking hotel bed. It was super comfortable though. But I was just like, why did I do this? Like I lived in this beautiful loft, just fucking brand new, gorgeous. The closet, I remember I cried in the closet because I didn't want to leave the closet. It was a very Carrie Bradshaw moment. And I just like everything was hitting me. Like, did you make the right choice? Like, why did you make this choice? And then I think once I let it out, I felt peace. Like I didn't feel any type of way. I just felt like, well, this is the choice that you made, so make it work or shut up. And so then eventually I ended up moving not into that place but another place, and that's kind of like that was the start of like things
falling into place.
I mean, they were still weird, but it was like there was a sense of normalcy again. I think what really threw me off, it wasn't that I was homesick. I missed the familiarity of going places that I knew. Like I was just so frustrated and tired of like learning. Like if I wanted to get a nice shirt, like I didn't know what store to go to. And like if I wanted to get good food or comfort food, I didn't know where to go. So it was just all these little things that were just like pissing me off.
Were there any other learning curves that you had to get adjusted to when you first got there?
I realized that visiting somewhere and staying there, even if you're there for a month, is not the same thing as living there. There is definitely a different culture. Chicagoans are very different. We are we're good people. Not saying that the people over here are bad, but we're just different. Yeah. We're not crackheads. Yeah. And just like it was just I mean, it sounds so silly, but like I had to get used to like my neighbors saying hi to me. It was the weirdest thing. Like I'd be getting my groceries and they'd be like, hey, and I'd be like, okay,
girl,
like,
what the fuck you want?
Yeah,
you trying to rob
me? It was so weird. So like even things like that were, and it sounds like very small, but like it just throws you out. It throws you out of your
culture
routine.
Shock.
Yeah, and you realize like, oh fuck, like the way that I used to operate to survive back home is not how it's gonna work here.
Yeah.
So
I definitely had to get used to that too, because like people in Texas is like, for whatever it is, there's a lot of like, racism and bigotry around, but that's anywhere you go. But the Southern hospitality was not what I was used to. My family's from Mississippi, but I lived in Mississippi for like a year once.
Would you ever move back to Mississippi?
For what, girl? It's worse than Texas. Shout out to the Mississippians.
Nothing's worse than Texas. So I don't know about
that. There's Florida and then there's Mississippi.
I feel like Florida might be behind Texas.
Then there's Russia. I don't know. Okay. But no, Well,
Mississippi sounds kind of cute for
Mississippi
you.
is the poorest state in the country.
Okay, I take it back. I'm
And
sorry.
it's also like legislatively
Yeah.
worse than Texas, honestly,
Ooh,
truly.
okay.
But that's a whole nother thing. So people, like you said, like speaking to you and like, you know, like even on the street, like if I was like taking a walk and it's like, hi, it's like, what do you want, girl?
Yeah.
Like, are you about to do something to me? Because like in Chicago, it's like we keep our head down, we go where we going, and like
And you get it over with.
and also like the pace was different too.
Oh my god, I was just about to mention that.
Yeah.
That was one thing that drove me crazy. Even at work. Like I've always been a hard worker, but like if there's time to like chill, you know, you get on your phone, whatever.
Yeah.
This was like an everyday thing where everybody just kind of dragged their feet. And I'm like, okay, this was cool for the first month. Like we got shit to do, you know, like it was very, yeah, I hated that.
Did you find it easy to get around? Like, did you learn your way? Well, I don't even know why I asked, because
No.
today,
different. That's different.
he's been living
That
here
is
for
different.
a million years, and he did not know how to get to Walmart. And I was like, girl, you live here. Like, what are you talking about?
Surprisingly, what you might find shocking is that I know how to get more places here without the GPS versus back home.
Okay.
And I feel like that's more impressive because it's more road. It's like it's more of a journey than it is back home.
I was doing Uber Eats, and that taught me my way around very quickly. And those
Like
5
by
months,
streets or like just by familiarity.
by familiarity. I still like, even now
You
to
don't
this
know
day,
nothing.
like I don't even like, I know what street I live on. I don't know what the next block is. I don't know the name of it, but I know how to get there.
Yeah.
You know, and I know my north, south, east, and west, which a lot of you girls need to learn. I know y'all don't like it.
I do
but-
know that. But I know how to get a few places. Like I know how to get to my old place in downtown from here. I know how to get to like a few restaurants.
Wait, so we drove, that was downtown?
When?
We went by that place. Was that downtown?
What place? Oh, no. That was in Scottsdale. Then you got me telling people where I live. No. That was in Scottsdale.
Okay.
When I first moved out here, I lived in downtown Phoenix.
What did you like the food when you got here?
No, I still don't really like it.
Same.
I mean, it's getting better, but like I think even like chain food tastes different. Like Cane's tastes different here.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets about moving here?
Regrets? No, I don't have any regrets. I think the only thing that really comes to mind is part of the reason why I left is because I felt like I was becoming very materialistic. And
Why you left Chicago?
yeah, I felt like I was becoming very materialistic, and part of me felt very, very attached to the loft that I lived in. And I felt like this is kind of silly. Like why would I stop myself from an opportunity just because like I don't want to leave the place that I live in and I like it. Like I could like anywhere else that I lived before. And I still haven't, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm still looking for a place that I love as much as that place out here, and I haven't found it. And it's not because I think that I'm not supposed to be here. I just don't think that Arizona is my forever place. But I think it's teaching me all the things that I need to get to that place.
So do you plan on, or are you entertaining the idea of moving somewhere else?
Is the mic on? Absolutely.
Where?
I want to leave the country.
Really?
I think obviously we've had traumatic experiences leaving the state.
Yeah.
But I feel like if we could do that. This is actually what I wanted to bring up that you don't give yourself enough credit for. Because the same way that I didn't even know that you were driving around without AC, like these are the type of things that people don't see. And there's things obviously that you know that people don't see that I went through. And so I feel like you don't know how much work that is because you don't give yourself an option to like fail. And even if you do, you're like, okay, well, whatever. I still got to do this. I still got to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you need to give yourself more credit for, because you had a horrible 6-7 months. You could have easily tapped out and just went back home. You could have said, this isn't working. You had a very big tragic event happened in your life and you still kept going. And there's days where you're not going to feel 100%, but you still keep going. And there's people who finesse and scam and use people and do all of these things to
And
just,
now, mind you,
know,
2020 was the year of the scam. Okay,
the year
was scamming.
of a scam.
And I was like, I should have got in on some of this, but I'm glad I didn't.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's so many routes that people take to get to where both of us are.
Yeah.
And they've cheated the entire way. We didn't cheat.
Yeah.
And those are the lessons that you can't, sympathy and payola can't buy. You know what I'm saying? So now I feel equipped to go to another country. I know that it's going to be a completely different beast, but because I was able to figure this shit out without scam, I mean, we did our tricks, you know, but we didn't use anyone or we didn't do anything unethical to get there.
Yeah.
I feel like the next challenge for me is to be out of the country.
I actually wish I had used some tricks. Because
Like
I probably would have got a nicer place when I first moved to Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Because my apartment, it was cool. It was bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It was bigger than my last apartment in Chicago.
I liked that place that you were in before you moved to the place you're in now.
It was cute, but roaches when the lights come out. It was one of those, and like they don't tell you in Texas that their roaches are the size of like school buses. Okay,
that's fair. I think it's like a just desert thing out here. Even like I went to some bars and they're like roaches like everywhere, and I'm like,
girl,
are we gonna like leave?
My job, I won't say where I work, but I work in a medical building. The roaches have on white jackets. Okay, they in there performing surgeries and shit. Okay,
you never told me that.
I'm talking about my current job, and I'm lucky to not have roaches now. But at my first apartment, it was just like, and it's not like little bitty roaches. It's like
full blown,
the size of this iPad.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The laundry room was always fucked up. Just like little stuff, people wouldn't clean up after their dogs, and I'm just like, I would not have, like, this probably would have been okay if I was in Chicago because I'm used to living in the hood. But I didn't even have roaches in Chicago. I'm like, I moved here for this.
Yeah.
I was so like,
I'm still trying to find out what kept you going. Because like, I knew some of this stuff, but I didn't know all of it. And I feel like if I knew all of it, I probably would have told you like, maybe you should go back to Chicago.
And then the thing with the roaches is like, I couldn't even be embarrassed about it because everybody in Texas got roaches. So they're like, oh, girl, this is just a big ass roach. Just kill it.
It's just like, yeah, like you live here now.
And I'm like, y'all, this is how y'all live?
Man.
It was things like that was just like, another thing that happened, like eventually that car with no AC broke down. And then there was like, then I realized that the transportation system in Houston is awful. It's like,
yeah,
we're so spoiled in Chicago because it's like you can catch a bus once every 3 minutes, even on a Sunday.
Yeah, the first year I lived here, I put like 15,000 miles on my car.
Wow.
Before that, it was like 2,000.
Yeah. So it took a lot of adjusting. I don't have any regrets about moving here, but I'm entertaining the idea of relocating again. But I don't.
What kept you where you're at though for so long? Why haven't you
in Houston?
Mm-hmm.
Routine, I guess.
Really?
It was just like, well, this is my home now. I'm like here. Okay. When I left my first place that I moved to, when I moved here, I didn't even think, oh, I moved to another city. I was like, oh, well, what part of town am I moving to now?
Yeah.
And I decided to move closer to my job, which was a godsend that I decided to do that. But it was like, now there's other things I want to do, but I don't have that same fearlessness that I had when I left Chicago.
That actually surprises me a lot. Are you sure it's not? I don't think that you don't have the same fearlessness. I think that you are afraid that you don't have the same mental strength to possibly
that too
redo everything that you just
I don't know
did.
if I can do it again. I mean, I know I can.
It's
but I don't know if I really have the gumption to do that.
You have the skills now, and you have
And then it's like, where to? Like, where do I go?
I think that's the beauty of life. I love that. Like, and we kind of talked about this a few times already, where it's like not having that example. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna throw this in here just because I feel like it. Is this mic on? I got into a little bit of an argument with someone in my family, and they kept saying like, I don't judge you, and I'm like, the only thing that you can say is just that I'm gay. I'm like, because there's no one else in my family that's done what I'm doing or even doing what I'm doing. Like, I created this. You stepped into my culture. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you came into
right.
They're not getting some of the barb jokes that we have right now. It's okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. Basically, like this is all me. Like, this is not something that someone has. Like, neither of us have seen this done before successfully. Like, we're creating that blueprint, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. So for me, I feel like, yeah, that's like what's so cool about not having parents sometimes, or not having things
kids.
well, no, I want kids. But
like right now, getting up to move is like not as easy if you would have had kids.
I just feel like I have such a blank canvas in life where I can paint and become anything I want. So that's why I'm not. I mean, I'm more afraid of losing stability and not being able to recoup the stability versus routine. I think that's the difference, though, because routine is easy. But I think finding stability where you're like working your way up, like from the bottom to the top again, I think that I've kind of surpassed that, where I don't have to start at the bottom. Like, I can start at least in the middle if I was to relocate, but moving out of the country, it's a little bit different.
I look at it now like
BTW, you are fearless. I just want to say that because you're still doing your routine in another state. So
generally, I think I am, because I do have that thing where it's like, well, I could die tomorrow, so why not do it today? You know, I always kind of like approach a lot of things like that. But in terms of like stability, I've also always, and I hate to speak this because I don't want it like to become a thing, but it's just the truth. I've always had a hard time finding jobs, like always. I don't know what that is. Like, I think maybe I interview bad or like, whatever. I don't know. I just have always had issues with that. So that is a legit fear of mine, like not finding another job. I also just want
to mention, this is what we're learning here. Actually, something in common is that Freddie is like his own worst enemy. He has a friend here who works in the HR industry that he has never reached out to for any type of interview advice.
You've given me interview advice.
Yeah, unsolicited. So that's,
but so that is a legit, the stability is legit a fear of mine. So it's like, if I go somewhere, like what would be the purpose if I go there and I have to regress? Because now I'm accustomed to a certain type of thing. And like, I can talk shit about Houston all I want, but I never had in-unit laundry. I never had a garage. I never had like valet trash, like little type of things. That's like, if I move somewhere and I lose these things, am I taking a step back? Is it worth it? Like, I feel like I would have to be moving for a purpose versus when I moved to Houston, I moved just to do it.
I think you answered your own question though.
Oh,
like
what did I say?
you moved to Houston without any expectations, and it turned out great. And I think you moving,
great is a strong word, but
well, it turned out favorable in the sense that you can take things with you now, like having experienced in unit and like some of those smaller things for living conditions.
I know that's really superficial, but
no, it's not. Honestly, I have had in unit washing since I moved to my second place, and I haven't looked back. And it's like a requirement of myself now, where I'm like, you need to make sure that you have this.
Yeah.
So I think you just need to keep that mindset. Like, I'm going here not expecting anything, but I know that I'm going to make it work.
I mean, that's true. Because, I mean, I kind of had that same energy when I got my very first apartment, and I was 19 years old, and it was like,
that's big.
But see, I don't look at it as big. I look at it as like, you graduate high school, you get a job, you get an apartment, you get a car. That's just like, those are just like the next steps. But for some reason, I just don't have that same, like.
Do you think that's just like you're getting a little bit, not jaded, but just sort of like tainted by like, I don't even know how to explain it. I think just like as you get older, right? Like you hear different conversations and you hear other things. I actually was talking to one of my good friends, and he was in a really toxic job and he wanted to quit. And so he's like, I just feel like I can't quit. And I was like, well, I don't support necessarily you quitting without having another job, but
Right.
why do you feel that way? And he was just like, because like we're getting older and we're almost 30 and whatever. And I'm like, but there's no right or wrong. Like there's no, you have to do what makes sense for you. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes us, like, that's really the key to happiness. Like, if you don't follow what other people do and you just do what makes you happy, like, then you'll be fine. And then we started talking about, like, he's like, I just don't feel like I'm super confident. And I was like, you're a very confident person. I don't think that you feel comfortable being a confident person. And I almost feel like that is the issue with you. You are not comfortable being a confident person, even though you are a confident person. Because confidence, you can exude confidence internally and you can tell yourself, I can do this. I'm going to make sure I get this done, et cetera, et cetera. And like, even with you saying like 19 years old, this is just what you do. Like, there are people who have never lived on their own that are like 28. So like, even in that sense, you just don't feel comfortable being confident. Like, to you, it's like, I don't know why, because
You said something earlier about I don't want to say the celebrity's name, but you heard them say that they just kind of like, they don't even think about what they're doing for like any, like, I don't know what the quote was, but like they just do it because that's the thing to do.
Yeah. Somewhat like that. So
Okay.
it was, can I say the name? Are we allowed to do that?
That's up to you.
Yeah. So when I got inducted into the National Honor Society or whatever, we did like a Zoom call with Matthew McConaughey. And so part of his advice throughout his career that he's followed is that he's been more involved and less impressed. And so all it means is just that, like, there were times where he would get like a movie role and he's like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I got it. But instead of like freaking out and being so impressed, he was involved. So like he put the action behind his impression. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I said that the right way.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I feel like with you are always involved and never impressed, which I kind of suffer from that too. I don't really love anything that I do. I think anything I do is great, but it's different for us because I don't think there's a lot of people who could go through what we've gone through and still like make it like here, present day.
Maybe I look at it now and I like one of my nephews is going off to college, and he's going out of state for college, and he's like the first one of that generation, because I have a lot of nieces and nephews. He's the first one to like get up and do that, and to me it's just like, because when I was graduating high school, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to California and go to school.
Period. Me too, but I wanted to go to party and fuck.
But for some reason, I tricked myself out of doing that. I was like, get a job, get an apartment, stay here. Like, don't go to school. Like, it sounded like I was about to cry, but I wasn't. I just,
No.
So in a way, it's kind of like, I don't know if I like was like some sort of like model for him to be like, oh, I could leave Chicago. Like, this is not like.
I was just about to ask, how does that make you feel? Like,
it makes me feel proud to see like him being so young and so determined to like do something different, because like, how
does it feel for you to know that you've become that for someone else in your family so close?
But I don't know that I've become that for him. I haven't had a conversation with him about it, but
okay,
it's nice to see somebody else doing
something,
especially so young.
Yeah,
like he's 18. Like, well, he'll be 18 by the time this comes out. He'll be 18, so it's like.
How does it feel for you to then see someone do that and then you having psyched yourself out of doing it? Like, I'm not saying like, do you feel envious? Do you have any regrets? Do you feel like I could have done this?
No, I feel like that's dope as fuck. And I hope all of my nieces and nephews do it. Like, they don't necessarily have to leave Chicago, but I hope they do something different than what the pathology is. Because like in my family, it's like we just get a job and we work and we have kids and we, you
keep going.
You just keep going. It's like nobody does anything like spectacular. And I think with him, I think he's like, I think he has like really big dreams.
That's awesome.
And that's like, dope as fuck to see, like, wow, you're so young and you like have it figured out like now. Not that I don't know that he has it figured out,
But he has enough
like, you know,
drive and push to get him to where he wants to at least.
And it's like
going.
it kind of like in terms of this conversation is like, I can totally do it again. Like my nephew's doing it. Like, what's the issue?
Yeah.
So
what the fuck? Do it.
The thing is where to, you know,
wherever it feels right.
You know where I really want to move? Okay, let's talk about dream locations.
Ooh, let's do it.
This is really corny and not really like, but I've been saying this since I was a child. I really want to live in Seattle.
You did tell me that. Yeah. I remember you said that. That's so cute. I don't know why you don't go do it.
I don't know. It's obviously more expensive, so I'm not I don't think I'm ready financially to do that, and I don't want to set myself up like that. But at some point, you can have a dream, and then you have to be like realistic. Like,
you know what I've learned though, Freddie? You have to be really unrealistic with your dreams.
They say you have to be delulu.
You have to be delusional. No, you really have to be delusional.
True.
And I'm not trying to like honk my own horn here, but I think what's helped me is a little bit of my delusion. Mm-hmm. Like, if, like, I don't know, it's easy for me to construct, and I think maybe we're all, like, susceptible to this, like, to construct, like, what you need to do to make it work in Seattle. Like, I'm over here in my brain already, like, yep, this is what you need to do, and you have to do this, and then let's do that.
The logistics.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think it's just, like, I know that if I was to relocate somewhere, like, I would make it work. Like, but I wouldn't just make it work to get by. Like, if I go there, like,
you got to do your big one.
I have to do my big one. Like, this is not even a flex. This is so stupid. But, like, I remember when I first moved out here, I was like, I want to live in Scottsdale. Like, Scottsdale is everything to everyone out here. It's the fucking Beverly Hills of Arizona and, like, you know, whatever. And then I got here and I was like, you guys all lied. This is the same shit as Phoenix, but just more money. So...
Is it like kind of like suburbia out here? Is that kind of like in comparison to Phoenix?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I would say, like, if I could compare this to anything, this is probably like West Loop, but without all the noise.
Okay.
And just the prices.
What do you say like Joliet?
Nah, that's more like if you go to like Chandler or like Gilbert. It's more of like that type of vibe there.
I'm trying to think, like, what could I compare to, just so I can get an idea.
Think of anything, like, even Oak Park, where I was living, like, I wouldn't compare this to Oak Park. This is more, like...
The good part of Skokie? I don't know, I'm just trying to think.
I'm trying to... Like, Michigan Avenue. This is, like, Michigan Avenue. Like, this is what Scottsdale means to people in Arizona.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But... coming from a luxurious city like Chicago, you come out here and they say luxury and it's like cabinets from 2010.
Like, girl, be for real.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about that, because now in Chicago, like, living in the hood, like, some stuff you just okay with. You okay with walking 5 blocks to the laundromat, because I mean that's just what you do.
That's just
right. But like some of the stuff that they consider like great in like Texas is like strange to me. Like even the food, like we talked about food earlier, it's like, this
like
is not delicious.
They love Whataburger over there, and I'm just like,
I don't want to dookie on Whataburger too bad, but like it's a basic burger.
As I just glazed over at the cup from the other night that
we did get Whataburger last night.
It was his idea, not mine.
It's because it's familiar. Because now I'm a Houstonite or Houstonian. You know,
is that what they called Houstonian?
Houstonian, yeah. And I truly
would
now.
I be a Phoenician then?
I don't know.
I know I'm a fucking Chicago. I still have my Illinois ID. Do you?
I when I registered.
Phony.
When I finally got a new car and had to register it, I needed a Texas license. Otherwise, I would have went to jail.
Okay, well that's a little bit different.
Because you can't have a different state
license and all.
I have a family member that actually got locked up like that. That's how I found out that was a crime. I was like, is it that serious? But it is.
Wow.
But anyway, I'm a Chicagoan to the day I die.
Period.
But like Texas is like now my second home.
You know what? Actually, I gotta look at my sock is showing. Okay. 2 things. My dream location is definitely out of the country. I don't know exactly what country. I'm feeling last year I was feeling very much so Australia. Like I really, really wanted to be there. But as time has gone by, I do feel like I'm supposed to be in Europe. Like it doesn't feel the same. Like Australia felt
So you
very
can be
like
with your white man?
if he comes
you
with
would have
me.
got that in Australia too.
If he comes with me,
Okay.
he has to come with me though.
I like to tease him about the people he
I
dates,
don't
by the
want.
way.
I don't want to find a white man out there. I just want one. I just want him specifically, and he'll come with me. But you mentioned about. I don't know what you said specifically, but it made me think about this because I was not born in Puerto Rico. And you said you're a Chicagoan for life.
Yeah.
I wasn't born in Puerto Rico, and I have family members. Well, majority of my family, like I'm first generation born not in Puerto Rico, and so there's times where I feel really angry about it because like
You feel robbed of that?
I feel robbed of it, but like I also see the importance like of what it did. But then it's so interesting though because when I go back there, like I don't care about the same things as I care about here. And it's very effortless. It's not like intentional. It's not like, oh, like I'm gonna walk on the street with no shoes on now. Like it's not.
Yeah.
Like there's just things that I don't care about. I don't know how to explain it.
I get what you mean because like even when I go back to Chicago, it's like it's that comfortability that like you can't really describe. It's kind of like in you.
Yeah,
it's like in your blood.
Like when the plane lands in Chicago, like I feel like I'm home.
I just feel like
I'm here.
It's
I'm
like
here.
a sigh. Like
yes. And like when I go to Puerto Rico, it feels the same way.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like different. Like I don't know. Like
it
I don't
does
wanna
it feel
be all
ancestral?
spiritual. Yes, I was just about to say I don't want to be spiritual, but it feels ancestral. It
Yeah.
feels like protection. It just feels so like
Yeah.
it just feels different. I can only describe it as like when you're really thirsty and you take that first drink of cold water, like that relief, that like, oh, this is so good. Thank God. Like that's what it feels like.
This is almost off topic, but speaking of like ancestral, I feel, and I've never been to any country in Africa, but I feel that way about Africa.
And you're from every continent.
I'm from every continent in Africa. When I finally do my ancestry, I'm gonna do like the regular one that everybody does, like 23andMe or whatever.
I did Ancestry.
So I'm gonna do that, and then they have another one called African Ancestry where they go deeper.
I'm gonna get that one too.
And you're gonna be from every continent in Europe.
No, actually, you know what? You don't want to talk about that because I am Afro Latino. But okay, we'll go to.
All right, Jocelyn. So we have there's another one they have called African Ancestry. They do more in depth analysis of your DNA. They tell you like what tribe you're from, what language that tribe spoke.
I'm gonna come back like Demi. I'm 1%. That's so funny.
I've never been there, but I feel, and the older I get, I feel like a very strong connection to somewhere in Africa. I don't know. When I was younger and like much skinnier, like, and I had African coworkers, they would tell me I look Ethiopian. So like
that feels a little bit racist, but
they're African. They're from Ghana. They were from Ghana. Those two. They would always tell me I looked Ethiopian, and I was like, maybe I am. I don't know. And some people tell me Nigeria that I look like.
So I've been out of the country with all of my friends that I've been friends with now for over 10 years. Freddie's the only person who refuses to go anywhere with me. But maybe we can go to Ghana together because I actually, why are you making that face?
Because Ghana is very anti-gay, and I don't know if I want to step foot there.
We're not going to walk in sucking dick. Listen, who cares? What the hell?
I don't know. They might have some special gaydar machines down there. I don't know. I'm scared.
Not if, what was that girl? Leslie LeBeau. She ain't go
I think she just got her first public shout out just now.
She just check her out. We don't know how to spell it, but check her out. But the reason I said Ghana is because my mom, when she was sick, we had an in-home nurse, and she was from Ghana, and she used to tell me all of the stories. Like she was from, she can even say broccoli. She didn't even know what broccoli was. And she told me so many stories, and so I just, in my heart, I've always felt like I would love to give back in some type of way, and like going to Ghana where she's from always just like.
What if I find out I'm from like one of the countries in Africa and I moved there?
So he doesn't want to visit because he's gay, but he's gonna live there and be gay living there.
I didn't say Ghana, but like I could be from like South Africa. I can be from the Ivory Coast.
Yeah, I mean, I would support it. I would obviously go visit you for sure. I actually was thinking about maybe going to Africa next year.
Sidebar: I dated somebody from the Ivory who was like Ivorian.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you go for your birthday to Africa?
But I don't know. We talked, since we're talking about locations, I really want to go to Iceland for my 30th birthday. And I've been saying that since I was like very young, like in my early 20s. So I kind of feel like I have to do that.
It's your time.
Yeah.
It's going to feel so rewarding. I remember when I've always been obsessed with like London and France, and like that was just like my thing. And I actually, when I kind of psyched myself out too, I always wanted to go away for school and I never did it. I did go to school. So I'm like,
yeah.
Thank God I did that at least. But I was just too afraid, but I always wanted to go to school in the UK. And 24 was always been my favorite number. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go when I turn 24. And I did it. And it was like, I mean, technically I was 23. So I was 23 when I took myself out the country for the first time.
Did you turn 24 out there?
Mm-hmm.
That's so dope.
Yeah.
I need to get my travel on. I'm not like...
It was also my 10-year death anniversary of my mom.
Okay.
That year. So there was so much that was going on. It was like emotional but you know what I will say about traveling, and since this all has to do with it, like relocating and just traveling and being other places, it does change you. Like 100% it changes you. Yeah. So, like at the time, I remember thinking like, I didn't think this, but it kind of got put in my head. My mom's neighbor, I guess it was my neighbor too, right? Whatever, I lived there. The neighbor, she told me, because my mom was sick, and then eventually she passed away, and we were still living in that neighborhood, and I would always be like, I want to go to Europe, and I want to do this and this. And she meant it in the best way possible, right? Like she was like, you have to be realistic.
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, you have to be realistic. It's very far, and it's very expensive. You're never gonna go. And I remember having that feeling even when I was on the plane. Like there wasn't like this, ooh, I got you, like I'm there. Like I was just like, this bitch might crash. Like I was just like, I don't know, maybe she knew something I didn't know.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot, because I remember she said that, but then at the time the person I was dating, I paid for him to go too. And so it was like, not only did I take myself, I took another grown-ass man with me. So I was
there was a little shade in that.
But... No shade.
Okay.
One thing I want people to know about Nino is when you hear Nino spit, Nino wrote it. No, it's not even a shady way, but it was just like those type of things. When you start to prove yourself wrong, it wasn't even about proving her wrong. It was about myself. It did something for me. So I think that's a good age, like 30. That's a big deal. And I'm gonna hold you responsible to make sure you do it.
Okay, good, because I need that. But to that point about the neighbor who told you, you can't do it, that kind of contributes to my reason why I left Chicago, because it's like, why can't I do it? Yeah. Why do I have to stay here because all my family's here? Why
Projections.
Right. Why do I have to just do what everybody else is doing? And why? Because I'll be honest, like a part of me was like, I'm leaving everybody too. So I had like not survivor's remorse, because I don't feel like I've made it anywhere like substantially to be like I survived and like my family's still trailing behind.
I do feel that way.
Yeah, I don't have that feeling, because I mean, I feel like I'm doing the same thing I would still be doing in Chicago, which is kind of like, which is why I have the urge to move again, because I'm kind of like, okay, it's time to pivot. I don't have no kids. I'm not really tied to this place. Why am I like feeling stuck here?
To it. Yeah.
And so I had that same thing with Chicago. Like, I'm just gonna do it because most people don't. And then I moved to Texas, and I realized none of these people have ever left the state. These people are brainwashed to think Texas is the best place on earth.
I know. Yeah.
So
it's hard. Yeah. It's really hard, I think. That's why I'm almost like, this kind of goes into another topic that we have. I love that all of it ties in together. But
And we did that intentionally.
exactly. Something in common. Hello. Okay, but I don't know, obviously, like, but I've spent a lot of my time traveling and like making sure like I do travel. I definitely haven't seen it all or done it all, but there's like this fear. Like, you're talking about like your 30th birthday, you want to do something big, and I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do for my birthday next year?
Yeah. But I feel like you always do big things for your birthday.
I know. That's why I'm like, this has to be bigger than what I did last year or this year or like,
Does
And
it
I'm
have to
just
be
like-
bigger, or do you? I feel like. Well, this is my thought. It doesn't have to be bigger. It just has to be fulfilling.
It's so ugly that you say that because I just thought, like, in my mind, I thought to myself, I don't even know if I want to say it right now. Can you like bleep out a name? Can you bleep out stuff on here? Will it take too much work?
Mm-mm.
So, in Arizona, if you drive to Mexico, it's like 2 hours away. And I just thought to myself, if next year, if this person came back, if we spun the block and we just drove to Mexico, I'd be super happy with that.
For your
If
birthday.
if I spent my birthday with him and we were like good and happy and we just drove an hour away out of Arizona. Does that
I
make
think
sense?
that's dope.
But he's not here, so I need to pick something out big next year.
And for me, like, I never do anything for my birthday, so like, I kind of feel like my 30 has to be big.
I almost feel like you need to let your friends do something nice for you too. That doesn't necessarily mean like, I know that you want the satisfaction of being like, I took myself here, so I'm not saying like that, but like, maybe like send you a bottle to your room or like,
It's also the fact that
here's
I've
like a gift.
like
something.
totally thought about this trip and haven't thought about bringing a person on. Like, you asked if you could come, and I was like, well, sure. And that's not really.
Did I ask? Really?
No, you were like, no, you did ask.
I probably did.
And I said, like, you can come if you want. And then he was like, oh, so you don't really want me to come? And it's not that. It's just like, again, like we talked about that on like the other episodes. Like, I'm just used to doing everything alone. I don't even think about including other people.
Traveling alone is very good for you.
I thought you was going to say very dangerous.
No, I mean that too. I feel like it's a little bit different for us though. Like, I think as guys, it's
As
a little
men,
bit different.
it's different. Yeah, for sure.
But no, I think it'll be good for you. And I honestly feel like this trip, I'm not saying I'm psychic or like whatever, but I do feel like I'm pretty intuitive. I feel like when I see you on this trip, I see you being there like on your own and like exploring and meeting people and like really outgrowing this like introverted side of you. Traveling will do that to you. Like, you learn.
I'm not
so
opposed
much.
to going with a couple friends though, but I don't like.
Yeah.
But I have a thing with group trips because a lot of people have group trips to help pay for the expenses of the trip.
Oh, but you're not that kind of person though, so I feel like it'd be different.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. My advice to anybody out there thinking of moving out of their hometown is to go.
Oh, 100%.
Just go.
To go, but also
Be smart, but go.
be smart and go, but there's nothing wrong with taking a different path. I feel like you're going to learn so much more and it'll be so much more fulfilling and soul filling than just saying I'm here so you can post it on Instagram. Like,
yeah.
I think it's gonna be tough probably if you do it the way that we did it, or if you're just doing it because you're ready to go or whatever the reason is. But I don't regret it. I think I learned more about myself. Like, I remember when I first moved out here, the first couple months, my family was like, "Wow, you've become such a good listener. Like, you don't really talk about yourself anymore." And I'm like, it wasn't intentional. Like, I was kind of like, well, I want to talk about me, but.
Before we get out of here, on that note, like, are there other things that have changed you as a person as a result of moving out of Chicago?
Yes.
Can you think of any?
Yeah.
Off the top of your head.
I think I was a lot more closed-minded in Chicago, in the sense of materialism, in the sense of just like the way that we treat people.
Yeah.
Now I do say hi to my neighbors.
I still don't.
Shout out to my girl next door. Her name is Yolanda. She's like 72. Super sweet. And I think just like knowing the principle of like being out of my own comfort zone and being out of like where I grew up and like making shit work and like setting a goal for myself and hitting that goal. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's just like it gave me a new level of confidence. Like,
yeah,
when I go back home, I feel like the people's champ, and like my family does not give a fuck. They do not care. Like, I'm one of the only people who have done what I've done in my family, and like they don't give a shit, and that's fine. But like for me,
they keep you humble.
Yeah, they keep me humble, and so like coming back, it's very like nice because I feel like none of you motherfuckers help me do this shit. Like, you know, like I would ask you for groceries before I ask them for groceries.
Yeah.
So,
to piggyback off of that, like my family when I go home, like they like cheerlead me.
Yeah.
Like they're super supportive.
How do you feel it? Do you think it would be insulting if they didn't?
I don't think I would care. I would take note of it, but I don't think I would truly care.
What would you do with the note?
With what?
With the note that you took, what would you do with it?
I would just be like, oh, they just don't care. I'd be like, oh, okay, got it, check. Like I'm like that with everything and everybody though. It's like, oh, okay, got it. But even before I left, they always just kind of like,
yeah.
I don't want to say gas me up, but like I just.
Did you have a going away party?
I did.
So did I.
And I cried.
I didn't cry.
Yeah.
No, I was just people cried, and I was just like, okay, all right, I'm ready to go.
I didn't cry until my niece started crying. Yeah. But one of my nieces.
Did you get any money on your going away party?
I don't think so.
I think that's the only reason why I threw one, to be honest with you.
You're sick. But yeah, like my family is like they some cool people and they support me, but I forgot the original point that I was trying to make.
What you learned, and I kind of deterred us because you said your family cheers you on.
In essence, I would just say to anybody out there, just follow your heart to wherever it's telling you should go. If you feel like you should leave your hometown, I definitely think you should. And if you don't do it like I did it though. Like, you know, I did it so you ain't got to. Don't go nowhere without no job, girl. Driving without no AC in 100-degree weather.
And if you do, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
No, it's true.
I just don't and this is me in general. I don't like shortcuts, and I don't believe in using people. I think it's one thing to go on a date and get free food, but it's another to like use someone completely to like relocate.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very introspective conversation.
It has. I'm surprised that we made all of this out of just the
little bit. We pulled it out of thin air because we didn't have any points on that. Thank y'all for tuning in this week. Make sure y'all come back next week. You can subscribe on my YouTube at Blackberry and check us out on your favorite podcast app. Tell a friend and tell a friend. And that's going to wrap up.
And we'll be back next week with some fire content.
Bye.